For nearly half of my life, I was riddled with anxiety. Not the kind we normally talk about, not the kind that shows up at a job interview or on a first date. I mean the kind that lives inside of you. It is there when you wake up. It is there when you eat lunch. It is there when you brush your teeth. It is there when you go to bed. It's this constant nagging sense that something is wrong and something bad will happen. Most of my life, I did not know how to describe this feeling. I did not know what was happening to me. All I knew is I wanted to crawl out of my skin. I wanted it to go away. So I ran, I hid, and I self medicated. I really did not know what I was running from. It was that sense of being stuck inside my head and not knowing how to get out that tormented me. I got stoned. I got drunk. I chased love. I chased sex. I chased achievement. And all I did was create further chaos. Anything I could do to drown out the noise going on between my two ears. I would do anything that for a few moments, minutes, hours would make that madness go away. And out of all those things, weed was the thing I knew I could do 24 hours a day and not die. And you know, when that's your excuse, you have a problem. Weed didn't just turn down the volume. It gave me an identity. It gave me a story I could buy into. It was a story that I thought I was in control of. It gave me a solution to my problems. And I was in the grip of that story for 17 years. And in this video, I want to tell you why that story is one of the most seductive lies anxiety will ever tell you. And what I discovered on the other side of this story, how I found my way out of this madness. Where does this all start for most people? Well, you're anxious a lot. You don't know how to deal with it. Chronically, pervasively, nonstop anxious and worry. Maybe this gnawing feeling you've had your whole life, you didn't actually know was anxiety. You had no name for it. You just knew it was there. You knew or were aware that your mind would not stop and it was loud, whether it was in social situations, whether it was at school, whether it was at work, in a restaurant, no matter what, that persistent angst never left. And one day, out of genuine free will, you decide to smoke a joint, to drink, to get high, to get drunk, whatever it is. And literally for the first time in your life, it's as if the clouds part and all of a sudden you have a solution to this problem you've been running from or hiding from or struggling with your whole life. This noise finally quiets down. And that silence is real. I'm not here pretending that it is not real. I remember exactly how it felt for that noise to calm itself down and to feel even a modicum of freedom from the madness. Getting high, weed, gave me permission to exist wherever I was. Didn't matter if things were good, if things were bad, if I was alone with other people, whatever the case may be, it allowed me to feel okay. And this is how the story often begins for many people. This became my medicine. This will be the thing that will fix me. This is this self-medicating hypothesis, which is often used in clinical settings. It's not just something we say about why people do the things they do. It's not rocket science. It just suggests that people with underlying mental health conditions use substances, behaviors, etc., to treat their underlying traumas, anxieties, depressions, whatever the case may be. People with these experiences often reach for things to make that go away. It's perfectly rational in that context. Why wouldn't we do these things? It helps us, and we got nothing else that does the same. And weed does this perfectly. THC activates the endocannabinoid, I can never say that word, system, which does play a direct role in regulating anxiety. In the short term, it does genuinely reduce the subjective experience of being anxious. We know this to be true. Then the problem becomes, what happens next? What happens when you keep doing this? Here's what we know from the research. And this is not a lecture. This is a reminder that there is a reality out there that we are hiding from or lying to ourselves about. Okay, this comes from credible research, not from Reddit. not from Instagram, not from random sources on the internet. This is not opinion. When you use cannabis regularly over time, your endocannabinoid system downregulates. What that means in plain English is your starts producing fewer of its own natural cannabinoids, the ones it would normally actually use to help regulate your anxiety, because it's gotten used to outsourcing that job to the weed. It's not rocket science, okay? But we must understand that this is what is happening. So your baseline anxiety actually increases, not because you're not dealing with it properly per se. It's because literally your brain is literally rewiring itself around an external substance. There's an interesting 2020 study. It was a longitudinal analysis published in Psychological Medicine that followed cannabis users over time, and it found that daily users had significant higher rates of anxiety disorders, obviously compared to non-users, and that the relationship was not just correlation. Increased and continuous use precedes increased anxiety symptoms. The weed is not treating the anxiety. In most cases, it was in encouraging it. It was driving the anxiety. Many people push back against this. They object. And I often would make these excuses myself. I'm more anxious when I don't smoke. I need to get high to be calm and not anxious. And really, this is where the delusion, the lie, really becomes apparent. That anxiety you feel when you do not smoke weed, that is the weed. That is the THC talking. That is withdrawal anxiety. That's your dysregulated endocannabinoid system. Can't say that fucking word. It is screaming for the external inputs that it's been trained to depend on to regulate your mood. You are not treating an underlying condition. You are treating the withdrawal. You're treating the withdrawal state that the weed itself created. It's the same mechanism as any other substance dependency. You get stuck in a loop. The drug creates the very symptoms it appears to be treating. Let's spend a minute here talking about withdrawal symptoms, because I think it is one of the most underestimated barriers to people getting help with weed and anxiety problems. Cannabis withdrawal is real. Ask anyone who has gone through that withdrawal after they have been high for a very long time. It is in the DSM-5. It is that withdrawal is recognized by many professionals and in clinical studies and all those things. And it is particularly horrible for people who have been using to manage their underlying anxiety, because the primary withdrawal symptoms are quite intense. They cause you to be quite anxious and quite irritable. When I first tried stopping, really when I first gave it a sincere effort, and this went on for years, I would often, that buildup of angst and frustration and irritability would get so bad that I thought I was losing my mind. Once I finally crossed that bridge and decided to actually stop, that withdrawal and that anxiety and all the mood dysregulation was really intense. The nightmares or the dreams were insane. I was sweating my balls out all night long, waking up in puddles of sweat. I couldn't sleep. I was irritable. Ugh, it was horrible. At this point, I could see how much my addiction had really punished me and caused so much suffering and madness in my mind and in my life. To me, this is what they call the experience of acute withdrawal. It was not my baseline state of being. The research on cannabis withdrawal shows that anxiety symptoms typically peak between days 3 and 7 and begin to normalize after about a month or so. And that does depend on how long you've been smoking, how much you were smoking, and what your age is. And for me, 17 years nonstop was a long time. And honestly, for me, I think the withdrawal symptoms, I wasn't being studied medically, lasted months in my case. It did get better, certainly. And I was exercising and I was doing a lot of things to help myself, which mitigated some of the withdrawal, but it went on for months for sure. What we often forget to tell people is that what you are experiencing right now will pass. And when you're in the grips of the insanity and the pain and the discomfort of the withdrawal, it's so hard to believe that it will pass and that you will feel better. But I promise you, I'm not the only one who's evidence that it does pass and that things do get better. I want to add one more piece to this story. Okay, this is a personal story. It's not diagnostic, and this isn't an invitation for anyone to self diagnose. About a year or so into my sobriety, after getting through with the withdrawal, after stabilizing my life, after having a good support system, once that fog had lifted, I could sleep again. I started to rebuild my life. I did start therapy alongside many recovery groups and peer support networks and meditation classes. I did seek psychiatric advice. And what I discovered was I had certainly ADHD and what generally we call general anxiety disorder, GAD. No wonder I needed to be high, distracted, drunk, chasing girls my whole life. I had to escape the discomfort of being myself. Some of the things I started to learn, and this is not rocket science, was that the chronic anxiety and understimulation, or my ADHD symptoms, and then the picture started to get clear. I started to understand why I behaved the way I did, why THC was so perfect for me. The weed wasn't just reducing the anxiety for my ADHD brain, so to speak. It actually initially increases the dopamine when you get high. So it was as if I was self-medicating, making myself believe that I was helping myself. Meanwhile, I was slowly destroying my sense of clarity, my ability to handle anxiety, my ability to address what was actually going on underneath. Right? That sense of calm when it would work from the weed made all of this just feel better and okay, however temporarily, and that was worth it. That's the kind of sad thing was we trade the pain and the anguish and the suffering of just momentary relief from the torment of being ourselves. This self-medicating story wasn't a lie, so to speak. It just lacked the reality of what was actually happening to me. And I also lacked the support system or the awareness of what was actually going on and how to do something about it. And that's what we need to learn to do. We must learn to do something about the problems rather than pretending they don't exist or relying on things that actually make it worse over time. This was one piece of the puzzle. There was mood issues and there's a family history and genetics on both sides of my family of mental illness and addiction. There was a lot of trauma and violence and criminality involved in my adolescence because I had to sell weed in order to maintain my addiction. So I hung around with a lot of terrible people. And as things got worse, I had to self-medicate more, of course. And that, again, contributes to the whole problem. So many of us continue this lie that weed is actually treating their anxiety, treating their mood, actually helping them. I'm here to tell you, yes, in small moments, it helps. But what you're really doing is making it worse and lying to yourself. And this pattern of behavior is actually ensuring that you will never solve this problem. You will continue to spin your wheels and continue to suffer. So, how do we free ourselves from this weed anxiety torment, this loop that we are in? Simply stopping isn't the total answer, right? But we must stop in order to address the problem. In some sense, stopping is necessary to deal with the rest, but you must stop in order for you to address the problem properly. If you're getting high all the time and using this to self-medicate, again, I want to remind you that just stopping is not the answer and it's not enough. Yes, it's part of the answer. Okay, you must do that, but you must do also much more. So, as I briefly mentioned before, what worked for me was committing to myself that I would do absolutely anything possible to not suffer anymore. Literally, if you tell me to get down on the ground and lick the carpet because it'll reduce my anxiety and ADHD symptoms, I will do it. I know that's not true, but just as much as I literally would have walked 100 kilometers in a snowstorm to get high, I will do that and more in order to address my suffering and to feel better. So that's how I started, that energy of I will do anything it possibly takes to feel better. So what did that look like? I checked myself into an outpatient program. I started seeking therapy. I started going to 12-step groups. I started learning how to meditate. I got a meditation teacher. And luckily for me in Ontario, Canada, many of these things were covered by our healthcare system. Thank goodness, because I don't know how else I would have done it. And the 12-step groups and other peer support groups are free. So the available resources are there. You must seek them and not make any excuses to change. No excuses. Hey, when our brain is so dysregulated, our emotional systems are so fucked, okay? It takes time in order to rewire, to learn how to regulate, to learn how to address life without needing to put things into our body to make the pain go away. We learn to regulate internally and with other people. What a beautiful thing. It can actually happen. So the same way you got high and got high with other people to feel better, you can do that without getting high and actually help each other heal and get better and feel better. And wow, what a wonderful concept. It is possible. I am not unique in this case. Millions of people, if not more, have addressed their addiction problems, have sought recovery, have gone on to live healthy, productive, meaningful lives. Whether it's a psychiatrist, a doctor, a therapist, peer support group, meditation teacher, faith organization, whatever the case may be, please go and seek help. Go and ask for it. Engage in your own recovery. It matters so much. Your life will get better. And I wish that for you. The last thing I will leave you with is trust the process. Know that it takes time, and primarily honesty. We must learn to be honest about what's actually happening in our life. And we must learn to tell the truth to another human being and learn what that reciprocal experience is of opening up to someone, having them give you feedback, perhaps having them open up to you, you open up, and it's this reciprocal process that does generate meaning and purpose and contentment in one's life. And that's how we recover. Okay, it's not just the little skills and the breathing practices and the journaling exercises. It happens through interpersonal relationships, trust, accountability, responsibility, being of service and helping. It's the whole picture. Okay, it's not just one thing. So if any of this video landed with you, made sense to you, you found it meaningful, you're caught in the self-medication loop, just remember the thing that you think is actually helping you is actually making it worse. And I know there's a part of you that knows that. This is the beginning of clarity, of honesty, perhaps of being honest for the very first time. You don't have to figure it all out at once. In fact, you cannot figure it all out at once. You do not have to quit now or tomorrow per se. But what you do have to do is acknowledge that it is happening, that you can get help, and that you are willing to get help. And then you must ask for the help. Freeing oneself from this internal torment. You deserve that. My life purpose is helping other people free themselves from that torment that I experienced for so long. And I see it happen all the time, all around. It is possible. I wish that for you. I will stop rambling with that. I hope you found this video helpful. Please share it with someone who you think might find it helpful. Like the video, comment, etc. Subscribe to the channel, all of that stuff. I wish you all the very best. Take it easy. Peace out. I am very grateful that you watched to the end of this video. Please click one of the boxes to watch more of our content, and otherwise have a great day. Peace out.